Patrik Antonius has been destroying the high-stakes cash games for such a long time. It feels like for my whole lifetime, kind of, right? It's been a really long time. Today we have a 100-200 game, which is like chump change to Patrik. We're going to see how he navigates this because he gets in a weird spot against tournament superstar Timothy Adams.
Yeah, these are two big-name players, very successful, and Patrick's going to be in one of these spots where I think he's using math more than like a lot of other players might know. He's also a field player. He's all the things.
Yeah.
He's also a professional tennis player, or at least he used to be. He's
and
so
a model.
good looking.
I mean,
I bet he gives good massages. I mean, let's be honest.
That's a weird thing to say. Anyway, this hand was suggested by Ben Page on Twitter. If you have a suggestion for the breakdown, you can tweet at us. Include a YouTube link and a timestamp. Please do those things.
Of course, we have to mention Nitrogen Sports Poker. They are our sponsors. They're the reason why we can bring this video to you, and we hope you will both enjoy the video and enjoy Nitrogen Sports by using the link that we have on our Twitter page. You got to go there, and if you do that when you sign up for Nitrogen, you get access to our very special once-a-month Poker Guys only poker tournament. Poker Guys invite only, of course.
It's an invite-only tournament. It's a 1,000 buy-in guarantee. We've only ever gotten about 80 people who actually play.
Give or take.
So that means it's a really good deal for you. You should get on there. They're also a Bitcoin-only poker site, which means you get 90-minute withdrawals, which actually other Bitcoin sites don't do.
They do not.
Which is pretty sweet. They also have sports betting and casino games. Get on Nitrogen. Get you some poker. Let's get to the hand.
That's what I'm okay. If you want, we can play that. Even the French guy, Johan. Yo viral.
Patrik, let's play the 7 deuce game. How much each?
Not too much.
Any amounts?
Like one blind?
1K each?
No, 1K each, no. It's way too much for the game. What about this?
I think that's too much.
One blind?
Right?
It's okay
500 each? 500.
All right,
500 each. Yeah, 500.
Let's see if I'm sure.
500 each?
You win the pot with it, right?
Oh yeah, if you win the pot, you get it no matter what.
Yeah. 500, okay, 500.
500
Does
each.
it have to be offsuit?
Yeah.
Is it suited or offsuit?
Any hand, any 5-7.
I saw he
No,
had a
not
king, like a
5-7,
face
7
card,
deuce.
and like a 10 or something.
Only offsuit, right?
No, just now.
No, it could be suited.
Wait. Only offsuit.
No.
It could be any 7 deuce. Any
What?
7 deuce.
Yeah, I've never heard of it only off.
Starting next hand.
I think 500 each is a lot.
Yeah, I think as well, but
We'll do 377.
okay. No,
You want to do 500? I don't. Doesn't matter. It only hurts for a second. All right, next shot. Ready?
Check 4.
Can we get a CC stream? 5G? Somebody has it. Thanks, my friend.
Patrik did raise pre-flop. Adams 3-bet him, though. Antonius called.
I'll give you money when you show me 7 deuce. I just did. I just showed you it. Were you not here? No. Everybody shit. I believe you all owe me money.
Adams has raised to 21,000. There we go. He wasn't thinking about calling at all, obviously.
Taking his dick out.
Thinking about bluffing this.
This is him taking the dick out. That's for sure.
And Adams has certainly told an interesting story here with the 3-bet pre-flop. The small flop bet, the check on the turn. This is quite believable that Timothy would have a king in this situation. Are we going to see a call with the sickness here from Patrik Antonius, or will he get bluffed? It is all in for him to call. 21,000 is the bet. Patrik with just over 16,000 behind. Patrik calls. Timothy Adams, bottom pair, snapped off.
That was quite an escalation on the river there by Timothy Adams, and he's probably a little sad that Patrik decided to call. Obviously, this is the main thing we need to talk about is the river. But we get to the river in a bit of an unorthodox way, at least as far as traditional ranges are concerned, starting with pre-flop.
Yeah, I think it's important too to rewind and talk about all the decisions along the way, just because that's what leads up to Patrik being able to make this call ultimately, right? So pre-flop, Patrik opens ace-jack, fine. He opens wide, he's under the gun. It's Patrik, this is what he does. Timothy Adams knows this and thus can 3-bet 4-5 suited, and I think that's ultimately why Patrik calls, is because Patrik opens so wide here. He has to call with hands that other people might fold because he's opening so wide. If he's folding a hand like ace-jack, he's folding too much.
Right, and I mean, Timothy Adams is not a dummy. He's a guy who's going to know his opponents and understand, like, if it's some really tight player under the gun, he's definitely not 3-betting the 4-5 suited. So we can tell this game is kind of out of the muck, and these guys are really going at each other, especially considering the kind of weak SPR that they're going to have. They're both pretty shallow for a cash game, especially Patrik, who's only got about 100 big blinds to start the hand.
Yeah, we think it's possible that they just recently upped the stakes.
Yeah, something like that.
Because Patrik always plays deep.
Right, it's kind of strange. So anyway, we get this flop, which is a pretty comfortable one for Patrik. It's like, well, if I'm beat, that sucks, but at least I know exactly what to do here, right? I mean, I like Adams down bet, by the way. 1K into 4.5K, this is a polarizing flop. That's going to work a lot of the time.
Sure, and if it doesn't work against certain hands, he can take another shot on turn or river if he wants to, and I mean like small pairs that Patrik may feel obligated to call once with because it's so darn cheap, and seeing if Timothy gives up.
However, he does not bet the turn, which is kind of strange, right? Because when he bets 1K, maybe Patrik does call with 2-8s, 2-9s on the flop. You're going to want to fold those out. I mean, I feel like when you bet 1K, you maybe should be continuing on the turn.
Well,
a lot of the time, at least.
I think what he's trying to do, though, is rep a hand. Instead of repping a super tight range like ace-king here, or maybe king-queen once in a while, he's trying to rep like ace-queen.
Sure.
Hands like that, which are much more likely to check back the turn and then bet the river.
Yeah.
He thinks he can still probably fold out 2-8s by the river if he does that.
That's fair, because Patrik does have plenty of kings in his range. Traditionally, he has more than Timothy does, because Timothy should mostly just have ace-king in his range, or ace-ace for full houses. But we know these ranges are not so traditional as we see pre-flop, so maybe that's not a huge factor between them, but it should be big in Timothy's mind, and maybe that is why he doesn't bet the turn, thinking, okay, Patrik can have king, queen, king, jack suited type hands here. Maybe it's not worth betting the turn if I have a hand like ace, queen, so in order to better rep ace, queen, wait for the river check, and then bluff. That makes some sense.
It's not crazy.
But he doesn't get the opportunity, because Patrik bets this very small blocker bet, 1,500 into 6,500 on the river. What is Patrik doing here?
I mean, I guess based on all the results of this hand, Patrik is inducing. But it doesn't feel like that's what's really going on.
I don't think he's inducing.
It isn't like he insta calls.
Yeah, I think he's trying to blocker bet, but is this an effective blocker bet overall? If inducing is not the main point, which I don't think it is.
Okay, I agree. No, I agree. But part of what he's doing is inducing because he does ultimately call. But ultimately, yeah, I think he's trying to get value from slightly worse hands. So it could be worse aces that are definitely going to call. Well, worse aces are going to call anyway. But hands like jacks, hands like even pocket queens, for this much money may really call because Patrik, I mean, I don't know, is Patrik really going to bet 2 9s here for this much? It seems unlikely.
No, I don't think so.
So maybe two queens can fold anyway.
Maybe they can. I think
his price.
Maybe he thinks Adams is really bluff heavy pre-flop and has a lot of ace wheel type hands because those are pretty good 3-betting hands, and he can get a blocker bet in against those hands.
Why not bet a little more if you think you're up against an ace, though?
That's a good question. So I actually don't fully understand Patrik's bet.
I mean, I think he believes he can get called by jacks and queens and tens. That's the only thing that really makes sense to me here. Ultimately, I don't believe, like you're saying, this is really about inducing, although maybe a little bit, but mostly it's about trying to get some value.
But guess what?
On a scary board.
He does induce. And he induces big time. I mean, 18K over 1.5K. That's a pretty big raise, Timothy Adams. We've seen this before in a tournament setting from a while ago where Timothy Adams was 3-handed, I think, in a high roller event.
That's right.
And he, I think, bet 1.5 times the pot on the river when he really didn't have to. This feels kind of similar. It feels like he could get a similar result with like a 7K raise, something like that.
I agree. I mean, I don't think he, first of all, also what he's now representing is, it's really bizarre.
Yeah, we got to think about that for a second.
Right, so like, I don't believe Timothy Adams almost ever has a hand like pocket aces here, even though you might say, well, it looks like pocket aces. Does it really? Wouldn't he bet pocket aces on the turn once he got called on the flop to just build the pot more normally, not to have this really weird sort of over-proportional size bet on the river, which is much less likely to get called?
But Jonathan, people would say, but you have the board so crushed. But there's something there. Patrik has plenty of kings in his range when he's able to call the flop, especially if Timothy had pocket aces. That means Patrik is pretty king heavy there, so you would really want to bet the turn.
And there still is an ace left in the deck also. I think if he bets the flop and gets called, he's usually betting with a king, with a good king, which is what he's going to have a lot of the time, and with pocket aces.
Yeah.
So full house and ace king Maybe not.
Maybe ace king he'd play this way.
But is he going to shove ace king on the river as opposed to go for a more normal? Maybe, but usually not.
And in Patrick's seat, he knows that he blocks ace king, so there's not that many combos left of that. So it actually kind of looks like 5-5 is kind of the most likely hand that Timothy Adams can have here that actually makes sense. But then you have to give him the credit for 3-betting that pre-flop. And I mean, I mean,
you can.
You can, but there's only 3 combos of that too, on top of everything.
I mean, I think it's possible. The reason why Timothy Adams does this is twofold. One is this incredibly small sizing by Patrik makes it look like, oh, Patrik isn't trying to get called by ace queen here, because if he was with a king, he'd bet bigger.
Yeah.
So now it looks like Patrick's got like a weak ace or something like that, right? Maybe 2 queens even, but probably a weak ace, right? And maybe I can just blow him off that. So that's part one. And part two is he's saying there's like, well, Patrik in theory could have pocket 5s because Timothy bet so little on the flop, but I block pocket 5s because I've got a 5 in my hand. So now there's only one combo of it. So there's that many less things I'm losing to. And the story that I have pocket 5s really does make sense.
Sure, it
does.
does.
For the sizing.
The sizing's a bit weird, and the value is just not that much here for Timothy Adams. He doesn't have that many value combos, and Patrik is aware of that. Now, if I were in Patrick's seat, I might think that Adams would play a hand like queens or jacks like this, less jacks because Patrik has a jack in his hand, because that blocks Patrick's most likely kings. And those are hands that make sense as bluffs if I'm trying to figure out what type of bluffs Timothy has. I think queens is like the most likely bluff in this spot. But in the end, Patrik decides the bluffs are a little bit more prevalent than the value. Maybe the sizing is a big indicator to Patrik about that, thinking, why would you make it so much? But we got to believe Timothy Adams is at least a little balanced, right? He's a really good player.
I mean, I really hope so. We've only seen Timothy Adams do this twice on our show where people have suggested the hands to us. Both times he did not have it, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have it enough of the time here. I really hope he does. Otherwise, this becomes way too easy for Patrik to play. So when I saw Patrik make this call, my first thought was, I think I even said out loud, about Patrik is such a boss.
Well,
like such a boss to actually make this call. It's one thing to like theorize about it. It's another thing to actually put the thousands of dollars in that he puts in and actually make the call. So cool.
It is super cool. So what do you guys think? Do you think it's a good call? Do you think he's just being kind of spewy because it's lower stakes than he's used to? He's like, whatever, let's find out if I'm ahead or not. Who gives a crap about this amount of money? I'm Patrik Antonius. Do you think Timothy Adams made a sizing mistake like we do? Do you think he could have gotten similar results against the same range with like a 7K raise as an 18K raise? Or do you think this is necessary for overall balance for his game? We'd like to know about those things.
We absolutely would. So let us know in the comments for sure. Now, if you want to hear more about our thoughts about this hand, because we actually have way, way more thoughts than we had time to share in this video. We did our podcast as we do twice a week, every week. It's called the Breakdown Poker Podcast with the Poker Guys.
There you go.
We keep changing the name. It's not my fault. You got to check that out. We spent 45 minutes talking just about this one hand and all the decisions that went into it. It's very cool if you like that kind of a thing. Not so much if you don't, but hey,
I mean, it's cool. You should do it.
You should
Why would
definitely
you?
check it out.
You're the worst salesman in the world. Anyway.
No one cares.
Anyway, if you want to see other really cool plays that we've done breakdowns on, check out our Elite Plays playlist by clicking right up here.
And of course, if you like this video, give us a like and please subscribe to this YouTube channel.